YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark, and we're going to be going on a little rant about Microsoft today. We'll get back to the Marvel Rivals content here shortly. This is something that I'm interested in, but I'm also kind of really like disappointed. And what's funny about it is for anybody that's new to the channel, I am no longer even like a console, gamer. I haven't touched my console in so long. I can't even my children don't touch their consoles anymore. They're PC gamers, Nintendo Switch whenever they don't feel like being on the PC. They play on their tablets more than they do the Xbox. And there was a time when we all were, console gamers in here, but we inevitably switched over to what I guess you could now consider the Xbox Pro, because Xbox is not making a pro version. And this isn't a scripted rant or anything. This is just me talking, so forgive me if I jump around a little bit. These are just my thoughts and feelings on the situation. So I know a lot of people might think, well, if you're on PC, why would you care? I care about lots of stuff that doesn't necessarily affect me. I give money to the homeless. I'm not necessarily homeless, nor is that homeless person affecting me. But I see a guy standing on the side of the street. He looks like he's legitimately homeless. I'm gonna give him some money. So there's lots of things in life that I care about or that I take interest in that don't necessarily like personally affect me. Right? My console is sitting here behind my monitor, and it's pretty much a paperweight. I'm keeping it just in the sense that, for example, like let's say, with GTA 6, for example, there's not going to be a PC version. They've already stated for like the first year that it's going to be out. So I will need a console at that point. But at that point, honestly, should I not just trade the Xbox in and just pay the difference and just go ahead and get a PlayStation, simply because it's really interesting to me, right? You got to think about something for a second. Microsoft is one of the smartest yet dumbest companies like on the planet, and I really don't get it. Like it to me, it's really interesting because I talk about it a lot about how smart they are and their decisions and different things like that. And two things can be true at the same time, right? Like me myself, I'm a smart dumb person. Luckily I have a wife who balances the parts that I suffer on and stuff. That's why I call it a better half. But you think about like Microsoft, and you think about the fact that they literally have more money than God. I mean, I guess you can't really say literally because God doesn't need money, but you get the point that I'm making, right? Like they have a ridiculous amount of money. We're talking about a company that's worth multiple trillions of dollars that is buying gaming studios like it's nothing, right? But they can't seem to get just the basic thing that they need to get to be viable in the gaming market, right? And I guess you won't even say that it's like they need to be viable in the gaming market, because you can still be viable and succeed without necessarily a console. But like, why is that even an issue for you? Like PlayStation, Sony, not even PlayStation, Sony, with all the different things that Sony has under their belt, whether it's like movie studios and electronics and not even talking about consoles, but just anything. I mean, they make all types of different stuff, right? They still could be bought out by Microsoft like 20 times over, and Microsoft would still have money left over to play with, right? Just think about this for a second, right? They have all of this money, and they just cannot seem to figure out how to make a console that competes with the only other console in their niche. Like, yeah, you have Nintendo, right? And Nintendo, I consider that to be a completely different thing. They don't really have what I consider to be a console. It's a handheld device that they've put a lot of time and energy into, and they have a lot of different IPs like, Mario, Pokemon and stuff like that. Different things that are like exclusive to them that only they make, and they don't bend the knee to anyone. They don't put their stuff on anything else whatsoever. It's just like, but then, other people have to bend the knee and put their games and downgrade them to oblivion, to where they look like they don't even resemble the same game anymore. Like for example, when Microsoft bought out Activision, one of the main stipulations was that Call of Duty games had to not only be put on PlayStation, but they had to also be put on the Nintendo Switch for like at least 10 years or something like that, some crazy number or whatever, right? I could be wrong with that, but I know that like there's at least the detail that they had to make them for the Nintendo Switch as well, or whatever Nintendo has at the time, right? So what I'm saying is that you have all this money, right? You're trying to tell me that you can't make something that can compete with the only other console that, like I said, is in your niche, which is PlayStation. That's the only competition you have. It's not like there's like 5 or 6 different consoles that are out. There's only 2 types of consoles. There's PlayStation and there's Xbox, and you've already given up and just been like, you know what? We're just gonna. I guess we're just gonna ride this out. And I've made videos about this before, and a lot of people have really been in just denial that Xbox is not gonna be making consoles soon. They're not. Mark my words. Come back to this video. If I'm wrong, I will make another video and I will say, man, I was really wrong, and there is zero shame in my game whatsoever. If I'm wrong about anything, I will be the first person to admit that. I will be, as soon as we see the news, I'll come back and say, oh man, I'll be on the thumbnail, everything. I was wrong. I apologize. Hey, kudos to them. But I'm about 99.9% sure. I'm not a gambling man, but I'd be willing to bet almost anything that's not a family member or a limb on it that I care about, that more than likely the Series X and S are the last consoles that we see from Microsoft. And this is just wild to me because you know what happens, and I think that's what's kind of infuriating to me, is that you know what happens when you don't have competition? The other side's just going to slack off. Competition breeds creativity. When you have someone that you're competing against, you're going to keep yourself in your top form, your top shape, whatever you want to call it, right? When you don't have anyone to compete against, you slack off. You don't do anything. It's just human nature. And I can't explain it. I'm not a psychologist or a sociologist or anything like that. But I simply understand how human beings work. It's not complicated, right? If you're in a relationship and there's like, it's kind of like when people get married and they complain, they're like, oh, well, my significant other just let themselves go. You know why? Because they have you. There's now no competition. And if there is, they get to divorce you and take half of all your stuff, right? But when you're dating them and it's all brand new, well, they have to keep themselves together. They have to stay on top of it. That's just how it is, right? When there's a competitive job market, people will be the best version of themselves, right? When there's numerous different stores that you can go to get the same product, prices have to be competitive, right? If there was only Walmart wouldn't be rolling back and slashing prices. It's just as simple as that. That's just all there is to it, right? The only reason that we have a lot of the things that we have in life and nowadays is because we live in a competitive world where people are constantly vying for your attention, your time, your money, whatever, right? And when they don't have to do those things, well, then they just go whatever. When PlayStation doesn't have anyone to compete with, you know what's going to happen? We're already at a point where PlayStation just doesn't do anything except remake games. That's all they do. They remake games. And people sit back and they go, oh, man, yeah, look at this, and the thing is, too, is I'm not down with like console warring and stuff. I feel like that's very childish. That this is not what this video is about. This isn't one thing's better than the other and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not about that. Like I've stated numerous times, I'm on PC. I get to play whatever it is that I want, with the exception of certain games like, for example, GTA that won't be coming out on PC for a year, right? But that's kind of like few and far in between. For the most part, most of the games that I care about that are relevant, they're going to come out on pretty much like any platform that can handle it, shy of like the Switch, because like I've said, many times before, that's not necessarily like a console in my opinion. That's a handheld, right? It can only do so much. You can only fit so much technology in something that you can fit in your hands that's barely the size of my controller, right? So that's one thing, right? But it's kind of like infuriating because so much time and energy, you can like, if you really think about it, you kind of see the direction they were going in for a while, and I was really hyped when they did like Game Pass and stuff like that, because, it's like, hey, this is, we don't have blockbusters and stuff anymore. Now people can just sit back and they can pay for a subscription just like anything else, like how you have Netflix and Disney Plus and HBO Max and all that kind of stuff. You can sit back, you can pay for a subscription and you get access to a bunch of different games. When my kids were younger, that's all they did before they were old enough to really, me feeling comfortable for them to operate a PC of their own. That's what they did. The only reason I even had Game Pass to begin with was not so much for me, because if I really wanted a game, I would just buy it because I'm an adult. I know like when I really want a game versus when I don't. I read the reviews, I watch the early gameplay, all that kind of stuff to see if it's worth my time and energy. Whereas with kids, they just kind of, they just like to download this, try that out, whatever. They haven't found their favorite game. And even now, most of the games that they enjoy, well, my younger son, the games that he enjoys are like Roblox, Fortnite, Rec Room and stuff like that. These are all games that you can just download and then you pay for the cosmetics or whatever down the road. Whereas my older son, he does like, more like Steam type of games, for PC, like, BNG Drive, and just different games that are like that, car simulators and stuff, right? But even then, they're like $20 games a piece or whatever, right? You can buy a handful of them for the price that I pay for a modern day AAA game, and he enjoys those more. That's his thing, But the point I'm making is that when they were younger, you pay for the subscription monthly, and they get to download all these different games. They get tired of a game after a couple of days, they uninstall it, boom, they download 3 more in its place, right? And the fact that you can stream games and stuff like that, so many different things that they were working on that seemed like initially like, oh yeah, this is cool. They're this is them being competitive. They're taking it up a peg so that the competition has to either meet them there or rise above, right? Whereas now you're starting to see that ultimately it's kind of like let me give you an example, right? If you think about it for a second, Microsoft is only really relevant because they make computers, right? And do they even make the best computers? You could argue no. But what is their competition in the computer market, right? And if you think about it, computers, there's only 2 types of operating systems, because it's not really the computer. The computer technically is just the actual physical hardware that you have, right? But then the software, that's where Microsoft is, right? There's a million different types of Microsoft computers, laptops, tablets, whatever, right? But then there's only so many of their competition, which is Apple. Apple makes MacBooks and stuff like that, right? And I guess whatever you would call the version of Apple PCs. I don't know. I don't mess with Apple products. This is an Android and a Microsoft household, right? And that's going to bring me to my next point in a moment, talking about Android, right? But nonetheless, though, that's their only competition. And you think about it, why are Microsoft computers more successful than MacBooks and stuff like that? Well, one, it's because of accessibility. There's so many different types. The average person does not have money to go out and buy a MacBook, right? So a lot of people just need a computer to just do basic stuff on. Not everybody's sitting here, building their own PCs that cost a lot of money and stuff like me and a lot of other gamers and stuff like that do now. For the most part, most people that have a PC just sitting in their house, they just have some kind of standard PC, or when they get a computer, they just have some kind of like standard basic laptop or whatever, right? So it's the accessibility factor, right, and the pricing and stuff, and the fact that I don't know this for certain, but I'm almost fairly sure that you can't game on like a MacBook. I'm pretty sure that that's just not even like a thing, and if it is, I'm not aware of it. But I seldom ever see any type of gamers doing anything with like Apple computers or anything, right? It's usually just the fact that there's Microsoft, and I also feel like it's to the fact that they kind of won that whole thing early on, because I have been around since computers really started to become a household thing versus when they weren't. I'm a dinosaur in that area, and like I said, it was just kind of one of those things where people just understand Microsoft better than they do Apple overall when it comes to computers and stuff. And the phone's a different thing, and that's also the point that I'm about to get to now, right? Is with phones, if you think about it, right, when originally we had Blackberries, that was the thing that was popping, right? And then the iPhone came out, right? The iPhone came out and it was popping. Then you started getting Androids, right? And then it became this thing where it was like Blackberries, Androids, iPhones. It was like pretty much an equal little spread there for a while. But then Blackberries kind of started to fade out for whatever reason. They became less popular. They made whatever mistakes they made. But then Microsoft was like, hey, you know what? We're jumping into the phone game, right? We're going to start making phones. And for a very short period of time, some people had Microsoft phones, right? Whatever they were called at the time. They even had one phone that had the highest megapixels camera that you could have at the time. It was like 40 megapixels or something. I have to look it up. I just remember at that time, this was years ago, like over a decade. But nonetheless, at the time, they had a ridiculous camera on one of their phones. But for some reason, they still failed in that area. And what did they do when they realized that they were losing? Well, they have 2 options. They can either look at the competition and go, well, what is the competition doing that we're not doing? And I can already go ahead and tell you right now. One, the phones were they just seemed very cheaply made. They had these plastic backs that just looked like they just weren't made of anything. Most of them, besides that one camera little thing that they had going on, which was more gimmicky than anything at the time. But besides that though, the phones themselves just were boring. They had that tile thing going on, like the thing that they've been trying to push forever, with the tiles and stuff, and it just does not look good. It's an aesthetic that people are very like weird with like aesthetics and stuff, right? Like very, very weird. When people look at something and it just looks cool, they'll put up with a lot of other stuff versus when it doesn't, right? And it's the same thing like the Xbox home screen stuff. It's looked exactly the same for so long, I can't even like remember the last time that it looked any different, right? We're talking years and years ago since the last, I think like the Xbox 360 days, since this looked any different. And it's like, what is your fascination with this tile thing? That's a whole separate thing, but still though, like the point I was making is that when they got into the phone market, they were only around for a year, maybe 2, maybe even 3 years before they finally just gave it up and were just like, hey, you know what? Maybe phones ain't for us. Let's just stick to the computers. So for you to think that they're gonna keep making consoles when they're even getting like the slightest little bit of pushback as far as like consumers not buying their products as much, like there's a lot of people that own Xboxes, but it's like, when you look at the stats, there's like one Xbox sold for every 3 PlayStations, right? And I think it's kind of like it's something that people just understand. It's just kind of like the same thing as with Android and iPhone. You have people that like Androids because they like to be able to customize their phone, root and ROM it, do whatever they want to do to it, or maybe they just like the simplicity of it. And then you got like, the majority of people that just kind of jump on the Apple bandwagon because it's like, well, I can't tell you exactly why my phone's better than your phone, but I just, I've always had Apple, or I like Apple, or all my friends have it, or I don't want my text message box to be green or whatever color it is that people say it is when you're texting on a phone that's not an Apple, whatever, but that's how a lot of people are. They just kind of jump in line and follow with what other people are doing. I get it, right? There's a lot. See, I understand technology, like I understand phones, TVs, computers, and all that stuff, like on a technical level. So it's different for me. I can actually look at stuff and say, well, how is this better? What are the specs? What is this got? What is this doing? What's the RAM? What's the memory writing speed? All this kind of stuff, right? The processing power, all of this, right? Versus where a lot of people, they cannot tell you that stuff, and that's fine. I have a car and I can't tell you anything about it. Whenever something needs to be done other than changing the oil or the tire or something like that, I take it to somebody to do it. Take it to a mechanic. I'm not a car guy. That's just not my thing. I could take the time to sit here and learn about my car, but I'll be honest with you. I don't personally care. As long as it's running and it gets me from point A to point B, I do not care. But my tech though, my office, every single thing in here, I can tell you every single spec and every single thing about it. You know what I mean? I got it looking like the Batcave in here. I'm not messing around when it comes to my tech, right? But the average person, I get it. That's why most people are on consoles, right? They just want to be able to buy something, open it up and plug it into their TV and it just work and play video games, right? No differently than most people can't tell you how their Blu-ray player works, or people don't really use Blu-ray players, but you get what I'm saying. Most people can't tell you what's inside of their smart TV or how it works or anything like that. They just know to turn the button on and to scroll around and open up whatever app they want to use, right? But the point, the overall point here is Microsoft has zero problem giving up. They have zero problem giving up. And not only will they give up, they'll bend the knee to the opposing team, right? Like, it's just insane to me. You think about PlayStation. PlayStation is ruthless, man. And I'm not saying that in a mean or disrespectful way because it's business. You're supposed to be ruthless in business. It's supposed to be cutthroat. That's how the world works. You know what I mean? It's not, the world ain't perfect. This ain't sunshine and lollipops and sprinkles and stuff. You know what I mean? It's a business at the end of the day. You're supposed to outdo your competitor financially, just in every single aspect. You're supposed to outdo them, right? But you think about PlayStation. PlayStation was going to publish. They didn't have the money to just sit here and buy out everybody like Xbox did, right? But at the time, you ever wonder why there's so many exclusives for PlayStation? Why there's so many different perks that you get for just having a PlayStation? Because PlayStation was going to business meetings with people. They were taking them out to the clubs and stuff like that, taking them out for drinks, and they were sitting here doing these backdoor deal type situations where they're like, "Yo, listen, don't. Microsoft might come to you, but here we're gonna throw a little extra money on the table. Don't put the games on their platform, And then also, if you have to put it on their platform, make sure that every month that if they got a PlayStation, they get some free skins or they get some cosmetics or something that are exclusive to PlayStation or whatever, right? Just whatever you can to make us look better. And that's how the game is played. And when's the last time you played a game and you got something exclusive for being an Xbox owner? Crickets, right? It doesn't happen. I can't think of one time. I've been on Xbox for years and years. And the thing is that I used to switch back a lot, back before the cross-platform days and stuff. Me and my friends, like whatever, let's say all my friends were on PlayStation at the time, or all my buddies, right? Okay, well, I'll go get a PlayStation, trade my Xbox in, get a PlayStation. Then they switched over. They're on Xbox, a couple years later. Boom, do the same thing. Get rid of the PS4, switch over to Xbox. But then it got to a point to where we had cross-platform, so there was really no reason to switch over. But as someone that was on Xbox, it was very infuriating because you're just like, yo, how'd you get that? It's like, oh, it's just something that's in it. Matter of fact, the game that I'm playing right now, Marvel Rivals, there are hella skins for being on PlayStation. You got Spider-Man skins, you got Penny skins, there's like exclusive deals on tokens and all types of stuff. Like, it's just ridiculous. And the only benefit that I've seen thus far, the only benefit, and let me know in the comments if I'm missing out on a lot of stuff, which I'm sure I am. You know what I mean? I can't play every single game and I can't analyze every little thing. I just tell you my experiences, right? The only benefit that I've ever seen being on Xbox versus PlayStation is that since they've bought out Activision, and Call of Duty is under Activision, when I do play Call of Duty, if I ever go to buy COD points, they take off like $3 or something. It's like a very small amount, but it's like, let's say I'm getting $20 worth of COD points, right? 2,400 COD points. It might cost me $17.99 instead of $21.99 or whatever the case might be, right? And same thing with the battle passes. I think the battle passes are like a few dollars cheaper. Like if I'm getting the Black Cell bundle, which is like $30 for the battle pass, then they'd make it like 27 or 26 or whatever the case is, right? But the point I'm making is that all the time that I've been a loyal Microsoft customer overall, whether it was a computer or Xbox or whatever, I have seen very little benefit for being a consumer or any type of loyalty. Right. And they fully understand how it is with their consumers and what they have to put up with. They have to know. They're the ones that are setting the deals. They're the ones that are getting all the feedback and stuff like that. We live in a day and age where social media, a quick scan of Twitter or Reddit or anywhere else would tell you everything you need to know. Just a quick little scan while they're, taking a smoke break or something. They can just scroll through and tell them everything they need to know. The thing is that they don't care. At the end of the day, this is just a quick business decision to them, which it should be. But at the same time, though, like I was saying earlier in the video, you have a ridiculous amount of money. There's a ridiculous amount of analysts and all these different people that do all this stuff that I was just talking about in regards to getting this information and them knowing what's going on in the world of gaming and what their competition is doing and all this kind of stuff, right? Like, why do you think when consoles come out, they're so similar to each other? In regards to like what they can do and what they can handle and stuff. I know a lot of people that get into the console or stuff that's well, mine has 12.5 teraflops and yours only has 12.3. And it's like, bro, when you put these games up side by side, the average person cannot tell the difference. It's not like, Xbox is making the equivalent of Sega Genesis games or something like that, Sega Genesis games, and PlayStation is like on some completely different level. We're talking about extremely minute graphical differences that only people that are zooming in at the fine, like, yo, you see how the bag, it's got like the little crinkles on it and like it's got 6 crinkles instead of 7. Yo, shut up. The average person is not paying attention to that, bro. Please stop it. You know what I mean? The consoles are extremely similar and there's a reason for that. There's a reason because they're both sitting here spying on each other and looking and saying, oh, well, over there, they're putting this thing in there. Okay, well, we got to put something that's comparable to that over here and blah, 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 right? So if you can do that, why are you giving up? You know that like 2 years after you release the console or 4 years or whatever the time is where we have like that period where they release the initial version, like we have the Xbox Series S, it's been 4 years or however many years since it got really, I mean, it's been more than that, but you get what I'm saying. Around this period of time is when you would release the Pro version, which is supposed to be like the in-between until the next gen console comes out. Why has PlayStation already released theirs? Where's Xbox is at? You know why there isn't a Pro version of the Xbox, or why there's not some what was it, the I forget what it was called, but whatever when we had the last gen Xbox and then they made like the whatever something X or what, like but it was supposed to be their Pro version, right? And it had features that were, if people were only playing games at 30 frames per second, you were able to play at 60 frames per second, right? And I skipped over that. I just went straight to the Series X. But the point I'm making is that there's very clear indicators that they've pretty much given up, and then it's just a slap in the face when you look at like the fact that they're going to be taking games that were supposed to be console exclusives. That's a no-no. You don't take console exclusives like Halo, things that have been that made Xbox a household name, that stopped them from just being a one-off type deal, right? Halo. And later games that have become more popular, like Forza. There was very little things that Xbox players had to kind of be like, okay, there's a reason why I have this console. And then what did they do? They bended the knee. They said, you know what? PlayStation, not only can you have these games, we're going to enhance them. We're going to give you enhancements for the dual controllers, the dual sense controllers. We're going to give you PlayStation Pro enhancements. Hell, they're probably going to even add in new and better content for PlayStation. Just licking the boots, man. Just licking the boots up, man. I know a lot of people are like, yo, man, why are you crashing out over it? This ain't a crash out. This is a vent. I mean, you want to call it a crash out? That's fine. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like it's a completely valid crash out. Simply because, what are you doing? Why are you bending the knee to somebody that you could buy 40 times over? You should be flexing on them. You should create something that's so out of this world, just as a flex, just to be like, yo, listen, this is where we at with it. You know what I mean? We're Microsoft. We've been around for a minute. I just don't get it. What a just actual slap in the face to console gamers, to people that have, put so much time and energy into building up libraries and stuff like that, because that's really a big reason. When you think about it, you say, well, why don't you just switch over to PlayStation? That would be fine and good if you bought like one game a year that you never play again. You think about people who have like libraries and libraries of games and stuff like that, especially the ones that are like digital. And even if they're not digital, regardless, it's not you can pop an Xbox disc into something else and play it. You're going to have to play it on the Xbox and vice versa, right? So it's bigger than just saying, why don't you just switch? Yeah, you could. And the thing is like, I'm thinking about it heavily. Because like I said, I'm going to be playing the hell out of GTA 6. If it even is remotely as good as GTA 5, which is a game that I have bought numerous times across numerous different consoles, with the fact that I had switched. Because you got to think about it. GTA 5 came out back in 2012 or something like that? We're now in the year 2025. Well over a decade this game has been out, and it's still an amazing game that is still receiving updates to this day. And this is supposed to be the improved upon version, and it's not going to be on PC. And now you're telling me, well, now you got two options that you can play it on. You can play it on a company that probably won't exist next year, like a pretty much future version of like Sega, where they just felt like, yo, we're taking too many L's here. Let's just become a publisher now. And if you think that's not the reason why they're buying up all these companies and stuff, because clearly they had no intentions upon making any of these games exclusive. They saw a few people's feelings were hurt. Oh, well, you're not going to be able to play the new Elder Scrolls or whatever the game's called. And all the, oh, God forbid we buy the company that makes Call of Duty one of the most popular FPS on the planet and we don't make it exclusive or whatever. But what was the point? Because you just want the money at the end of the day. And once again, I get it. It's a company. They should just want the money. But you could have the money and you could have like more of it through people wanting to buy your consoles because there's genuinely a reason. That's what PlayStation does. Does it seem like PlayStation is hurting in any way right now? Are they hemorrhaging players and customers? No, they're not. Xbox is like, yo, well, we just want everybody to play games. Shut up. You don't care about people. You don't care about what like. If the customer can play on anything, you just want there to be more access to people and stuff in regards to like who you can reach for your own personal financial gain, which I'm just going to elaborate again. I fully understand it's a business, but do not spit in my face and tell me that it's raining. Please don't do that. If you're going to sit here and spit in my face, just spit in my face. And then we can handle it however afterwards. I mean, there's only one we're going to handle it, but you get what I'm saying, right? Nonetheless, don't insult me. Don't patronize me. Just keep it a buck. Look, we don't even feel like making consoles no more, y'all. This is getting silly. We got more money than we know what to do with. We done bought up half of the publishers, on the planet, in regards to gaming and stuff like that. We're just gonna do whatever we want to now. We don't even feel like messing with these consoles no more. We're just gonna let PlayStation have it. And if you don't like that, get a PC or a really good smart TV and some really fast Wi-Fi. Just keep it real, man. Because it's insulting. And then you got people, I don't even want to say his name, man, but you got this one dude, man, just on Twitter every day. Bro, come on, man. Like every day this dude, they really doing this. And then 2 days later, an article comes out and it's like, we're actually doing this. He's like, oh, well, I didn't realize at the time. It's like, bro, come on, man. Just stop it, bro. Just stop it. Just admit it's an L. You know what I'm saying? I've seen it before with my own eyes. Like I said, I was around. I lived long enough. This ain't just a news story to me. I used to own a Sega Genesis. You understand what I'm saying to you here? At one point, that was the equivalent of Xbox. Before you even had PlayStation, it was Nintendo and it was Sega. And you know what happened? Sega made one little tiny mistake and they were just like, oh, you know what? Well, we just don't have money anymore to make consoles. And that's the end of it. And we're not going to. I know a lot of people might think, well, Sega was nowhere near as profitable as or worth as much as Microsoft is. But what I'm explaining to you is that just like with their phones, once they even get a little bit of like competition and they're on the lower end of it, they immediately just throw their hands up in the air and go, all right, sorry guys, we should have never even came into this space to begin with. We're sorry. We took an L. It's curtains for us, man. It's over. And it's really infuriating, man, because it's like my main thing is like I was saying originally, earlier on in the video, when you don't have any competition, it's just going to make the other side lazier. And they're already kind of lazy. Like I said, when's the last time a really good, besides that whatever something bot or whatever the game that won the like game of the year for however many different places voted it to be, Astrobot, I think it was, or something like that, right? Outside of that, what are they really doing besides just remaking the same game for the 4 billionth time? Yeah, they come out with a God of War or something like that every now and again, But besides that, though, what are they really offering? What are they really trying to do? Most PlayStation owners are super excited about getting Xbox games. And you know what's crazy about that? If you would have kept them on Xbox, they would eventually go get an Xbox. And then you wouldn't be like not making Xboxes anymore. Oh, God. I don't get it. I really don't. I would love to be a fly on the wall in some of these, like just these corporate meetings and stuff like that, where they're sitting back and they're just like, hey, you know what? You know what I think we should do? I think we should just keep being nice and putting all of our games on the other consoles. And people are just like, well, PlayStation is beating us, and PlayStation doesn't ever do that. And they're just like, get them out of here, I mean, what are we doing, man? I don't know. Let me know in the comments though. Like, what do you guys think? You guys think I'm tweaking? Do you think that they're gonna keep making Xboxes, and that they're just a little late, and there's a reason why the Pro's been out for as long as it has, and we haven't even heard or seen anything that remotely sounds like another console? No type of model leaks like they just happen to have every year, prior to one's release or whatever the case is, even like 2 years out sometimes, like we have with every other console, and since like the internet's even been a thing and stuff like that. I mean, like, what do you guys think? I mean, do you think it doesn't matter? Are you on PC? Are you on Xbox? Whatever. Just let me know in the comments. You have to forgive me. Sometimes with stuff like this, it really irritates me because, like I said, even when I'm not someone who is necessarily like, it's not something that's affecting me directly, it's still just kind of like the choices that are being made, right? And I would completely understand if Microsoft was some little tiny company that just could not compete and there was just nothing they could do. And it's like, no, that's not the case. It's quite the contrary, actually. You are one of the biggest companies on the planet, and you're just like, we just can't figure out what to do. We just don't know. Life is so hard. Woe is me, bro. If y'all don't sit y'all's asses down somewhere and figure out how to get back in the game here, literally the only thing you need to do is just make a good console. That's all you need to do. Just make another good console. Figure out whatever PlayStation is lacking in or lacking on. And do it better. That's what you do. It ain't complicated, man. I say it isn't rocket science, but I don't necessarily know how to build a console. So but I mean, technically, it's not rocket science. But you guys get it. You get the point I'm making. Nonetheless, though, we're past the 30-minute mark here, so I'm gonna get back to playing some Marvel Rivals ranked. But yeah, just let me know in the comments what you guys think, how you're feeling about it, what you think about the news. Do you care? You not care? Whatever. But yeah, this is Dark. I appreciate you guys for listening. You made it this far. You're an actual champ. You're goated. We love you around here. But we'll catch you on the next one, though.